in the marinas has damage. But other than that, we fared very well. The airports are both up and running now. No power, but essential emergency response aircraft is going to be able to start coming in. They got a C-130 coming in tomorrow with water and rations and food for the residents that stayed and the first responders. So everything's starting to come together, but it just takes a little while. It's not moving fast enough for us, but I want to thank everybody that's really working hard to bring this together.
Yeah, well, given what might have been, I'm glad that you're doing okay and folks are doing okay there. We'll continue to talk to you in the days ahead. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much for having us on.
Mayor Kate, just south of here in Sarasota, the city manager says about 60% are without power. Today, people who had evacuated started going home. We'll see what they found next. Also later, it is not a hurricane anymore, but it's not over yet. We'll go check in with the Weather Center to see exactly what's happening right now in Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, and what's to come. Without power. Today, many people who had evacuated, they started making the anxious journey home to see what was there. Alex Marquardt reports on that tonight.
Steve and Laura Brady got back to their house in Sarasota today, bracing the worst.
I was really worried that we were going to have the big pine up front there that I was afraid was going to go right through the bedrooms.
We met them at a shelter on Sunday as Hurricane Irma was bearing down with 10-year-old daughter Peyton and their dogs Stella and Monty.
We boarded up our home. It was a very long Friday. Boarded up the whole house on Friday and got here 7:30 yesterday morning.
They're now back, but like more than 6.5 million others in Florida, without power.
So are you hunting around for a generator, or are you worried that that's what it might come to?
We have friends with generators right now. We're not really hunting around at the moment, but got back here, so a few days from now it might be a different story.
Power's out for the whole street, including the home of Philip and Beverly Denon. Philip, a Korean War vet, needs electricity for his oxygen supply.
I have enough bottled oxygen to last for several days, and we have enough gasoline that I could get out of the car to run the generator probably for several days. But without power, we'd be in real trouble then.
The state's biggest power company, Florida Power and Light, is frantically working on restoring service. Some it will be hours, for others, weeks.
It could take weeks because not only do we have to repair parts of our system, in some cases we're going to have to do a complete rebuild.
The White House says it is mobilizing the largest ever number of power workers to help.
We will have line restoration workers from every company in this country, from states all over the country, but also from Canada, coming to Florida to help restore the lines.
In the wake of Irma, cities and towns today are getting back on their feet.
These are what's known as the TFIT, or Tactical First In Teams, the first groups of authorities, the tip of the spear, if you will, out here on Sarasota's barrier islands, assessing the damage after the storm and clearing these roads so that residents can get back as soon as possible.
Most, like the Bradys, are grateful they can even get home. Even if it takes weeks to get back to normal, everyone knows this could have been far worse.
We are so lucky compared to what just happened in Texas. It's a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal. It stressed me out pretty bad, but I could kind of breathe a sigh of relief tonight, I think, once I get to sit down.
I think a lot of people are breathing a sigh of relief despite all those without power like she is. Alex joins us now from Sarasota. Crews are out there obviously trying to restore power. It's going to be a slow process in a lot of places.
Yeah, the crews are out there around the clock. It is a slow and steady process, but they are making progress. Around 1 million people, 1 million customers have had their power restored today by FPL. We're actually standing here in one of their staging areas. You can see what's known as their bucket trucks back there. It's been a hive of activity all night with these trucks coming and going. They're getting assignments around the clock. Their CEO says that they are working 24/7. He has called this the most widespread damage in the company's history. Now, Anderson, we have to remember that this power outage is not just affecting Florida. As that storm swept northwards, it has affected more than 1 million customers in Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. This is going to be a monumental task to get everyone back online. Anderson.
Alex, thanks very much. As we've been hearing all night, people in Florida are really just starting to get an idea of the damage, beginning the long road to recovery. Joining me now is a man who understands the process well, Lieutenant General Russell Honore, who led the military response to Hurricane Katrina. General Honore, I mean, the winds from this storm, they're moving away. There's still, all these people, more than 6 million or so, without power tonight. You say that in itself is a disaster. What do you mean?
Well, Anderson, we used to go through these scenarios when I was commander of Joint Force Headquarters, Homeland Security, plotting around the country what we would do if we lost power. And if you take a 24 to 36-hour period, anywhere in the country without power, the whole structure starts to deteriorate as far as people being able to live in that community based on the weather conditions. Those that live in high-rise, in this case, we've got a double disaster because we got the power out, we got roads that are out, we've got homes that are destroyed. So when you look at that scenario in the Keys and the great review y'all done earlier in the show, it's going to be hard to build that infrastructure back. And the gentleman with his bar, when there's no businesses and no places for people to work, and there's no water that they can use, it breaks down that ability for that community to sustain itself. So a decision is going to have to be made in the coming days on how much of that community need to evacuate. Because if you build your business back, you don't have the employees. If the employees there, you don't have customers. So it takes that entire community to come back together, the fishing side of it, the recreation side of it, the bars and the restaurants. So that whole thing has to come back, and it takes time. I saw that in the rebuilding of the business in New Orleans. You've got to rebuild that community from bottom up, and people's homes have to be replaced. In the case of shelter, they could bring sea barges in. They use them all the time in the oil industry. They could bring ships in. They could bring trailer homes in. But again, they're going to be exposed to potential future hurricanes. The problem with trailers, they're very expensive. And the return on the trailer, as we did in Louisiana last year, the 3 to 4 months to use that trailer, we paid more for the trailer than people got to repair their home. So there's an awkward trade-off there for that amount, for the cost of that temporary housing. It's going to take a while to get that infrastructure up so the community can take care of one another.
So in some places, you're saying city officials or town officials may start to think about actually encouraging people to evacuate if it's going to be a long rebuilding process in that neighborhood, in that community?
Absolutely. Every one of those individuals have to now negotiate with FEMA. They have to negotiate with an insurance company, or they have to negotiate with the small business loan, unless they're independently wealthy. All that takes time. They've got to build the buildings back to new building codes. All that takes time. So the enthusiasm and the adrenaline rush from surviving this, reality is going to set in the next couple of days. And the sad thing is, about 40% of small businesses fail after a disaster like this, unfortunately. They don't have the insurance, nor can they sustain their customers or their employees to keep their business going. We're going to have to find a different way to do recovery, because the way we do it now is not as efficient as it could be to bring communities and businesses back online. We'd be better off sometime with just writing somebody a check and let them do their own thing than going through this long, laborious process of trying to figure out exactly what we're going to give them. Because that drawn process caused people to go out of business. Small businesses who go in and they do work for the government have to wait 60 to 90 days for their money, and it stretches them out, Anderson. So building that back is going to be hard.
Yeah, a lot of difficult days ahead and a lot of things for think about. General Honore, I appreciate your time. When we come back, Irma may be weakening, but flooding in northern Florida still causing a lot of problems. Talking about Jacksonville, we'll take you there next.